So after yesterday's Rangers game, Max Scherzer was celebrating with Austin Hedges, and tell me he didn't go full Marv from Home Alone 2. Anyway, genuine question for you guys. Why do people still pitch to Yordan Alvarez or Corey Seager? Like, this should be happening every single time they come up to the dish, and we have an update on Corbin Burnes. He might get traded in the offseason. All of that in today's MLB Recap, and just a reminder, Recap is presented by SeatGeek. Use code Fuzzy to save 20 bucks off postseason tickets or NFL tickets. Also, make sure you guys are using code Fuzzy on Underdog Fantasy. They're going to match your first $500 deposit, which is basically free money, so here are my picks for today. All right, game number one, we have the Astros and the Twins. Sonny Gray, he was on the bump versus Christian Javier, and there's something about the postseason that just changes these guys. Now, the Astros, they're going to raise Gray's ERA pretty quick because that RBI single from Tucker was followed up by a 3-run moonshot from Jose Abreu. That ball almost went 450 feet. That was his first of 2 home runs, so stay tuned. Bregman, he lifted another home run. That's the first time since 2021 that Sonny Gray allowed multiple home runs in a single start. Bregman, he had an RBI single. And look at the 2022 World Series MVP, Jeremy Pena. He stopped what could have been a huge rally for the Twins. He dove and made the stop. He flipped it to Tuve, and that's a double play to end the 6th inning. Now, I am going to show Christian Javier's highlights in a second, but like, why are people pitching to this guy? Yordan has 4 home runs already in this series, and for his playoff career, he has 10 home runs and an almost 910 OPS in 50 postseason games. So he's been insane. Jose Abreu, he mashed another home run. He has 6 RBIs in 3 games. Like, it's October. We know that Houston is going to come ready, and I mean, just look at Christian Javier. He tossed 5 shutout frames while racking up 9 strikeouts, and also he walked a ton, so this was basically a prime Blake Snell performance. Christian Javier now has a 1.91 ERA in the playoffs for his career. He's stupid good. Game number 4 is going to be Jose Urquidy versus Joe Ryan. So Minnesota, they see Urquidy very, very well, so expect a short lease. Where on the flip side, Joe Ryan has been a walk machine, so this game feels like a coin flip. Houston, if they win, they're going to go to the ALCS, which would be their 7th consecutive ALCS. Now, I'm going to try my best to be polite in this next game, but Baltimore, they almost stood no chance in this game. Dean Kremer, I kind of salute him. I tip my cap. He tried his best, but there's Corey Seager going 450 feet for his 14th playoff home run. He won the World Series MVP back in 2020, if you guys forgot. By the way, he set a record in this game with 9 walks in a series. He passed Barry freaking Bonds. Mitch Garver stepped up for another bases loaded opportunity, and he smoked a 2-run double down the left field line, and yeah, that'll do it right there. Adolis Garcia, he barreled up a pitch for a long 3-run home run, and then Nathaniel Lowe, he finally ran into a baseball. He was pumped up. Nathan Eovaldi, he is developing a rep as a big game pitcher. Back-to-back gems in these playoffs. In the first game against the Rays, he allowed 1 run with 8 strikeouts, and then in this game against the Orioles, 7 strikeouts, just 1 earned run. He now owns a very impressive 2.7 ERA in 56 playoff innings. They're about to call him Playoff Nate or Big Game Nate, something like that. Shout out to the Rangers because they lost 102 games just 2 years ago, and then nearly did it again just a year ago in 2022. You have to give all of the props in the world to GM Chris Young, the former tallest pitcher in baseball history. He signed Corey Seager, Marcus Semien. He made great trade after great trade, and also, by the way, he drafted a young guy named Wyatt Langford. This year in the minors, he hit 360 with like 10 home runs, 12 stolen bases, something crazy like that in 44 games. The Rangers swept the Orioles, and they didn't even need Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer. They don't have Wyatt Langford or Ezekiel Duran in that lineup. Like, the Rangers are going to be good for a long time. Now, let's go ahead and recap the Orioles season because I feel like there was a lot of positives, but also they should kind of be embarrassed by how little money they spent on starting pitching. I'm going to go ahead and just say that it's a good thing the Orioles got beat. Is that a hot take? It might be, but I love the Orioles, don't get me wrong, but it's a good thing that the Rays, the Guardians, and the Orioles did not make it far in the playoffs. I'm going to rant about that more in just a second, but let's talk about their trade deadline acquisitions. Jack Flaherty, he had a near 7 ERA. He was demoted to the bullpen where he was a little bit better, but he was terrible as an Oriole. Shintaro Fujinami, he had one of the worst rookie seasons ever. He had a near 5 ERA with the Orioles and was completely left off the playoff roster. So what do they have to do going forward? They got to spend some money. The Rays and the Orioles got swept by the Rangers, so they should probably look themselves in the mirror and say, hey, it's cool that we made it this far, had a great regular season, made the playoffs without spending any money, but to be honest with you, they could have done so much better if they would have hit full send. Like the whole we didn't spend money but we made the playoffs act, it's getting really old. Congratulations, you lost again because you're cheap. What do you want, a cookie? Now, here's what I would do if I owned the Orioles. I would look my GM in the eyes and say, you go get Shohei Ohtani. Or what they could do is they could go out and acquire someone like Corbin Burnes. And these were the recent quotes from the GM of the Brewers. I mean, what are you saying right here? Look at Matt Arnold, the GM of the Brewers. On one hand, he expects Burnes to be back, but just a few moments later, he admits that he cannot close the door on conversations. So if I'm the Baltimore Orioles, I do everything possible. I'm not going to trade Jackson Holiday. I'm not going to trade Kobe Mayo, maybe Heston Kjerstad, but I'm going to try and trade for Shane Bieber or Corbin Burnes. Burnes, he wasn't good in the playoffs. Shane Bieber had a down season, so their value is definitely lower than when it was at their peak when they won Cy Young. Shane Bieber, he's not the same guy without spider tack. I hate calling him out, but we got to be truthful here. Again, Jackson Holiday was the #1 overall pick. I don't think that they're going to trade him. Kobe Mayo, I mean, this dude is sick. 45 doubles and 29 home runs while hitting .290 in the minors this year. That could be a perfect fit for the Brewers, who are kind of in search of a new third baseman. So what do you guys make of the Orioles season? Do you think that it was a success, or do you think that it's kind of a look in the mirror moment, like, hey, you could have gone even further, just like the Rangers, if you had invested in starting pitching, trying to trade for Jack Flaherty and Shintaro Fujinami to make up for not spending in free agency? I mean, that's just stupid. We're going to look at the free agent pitchers in just a second, but let me get this rant out the way because, again, it's so frustrating being a Guardians fan because I'm seeing teams like the Rays and the Orioles pat themselves on the back for having a great regular season and winning almost 100 games only to get swept in the playoffs because you had limited payroll. Like, the whole Moneyball approach was cool, but they also lost. And they also forgot to mention that they had Barry Zito, they had Miguel Tejada, they had talent, but because they did not spend money, they got bounced in the playoffs. Maybe I'm a prisoner of the moment, but again, as a lifelong Guardians fan who has lost so many players to free agency or trades because we can't afford them, it's just sickening at this point to repeat the same thing over and over and expect different results. Isn't that the definition of insanity? So again, hopefully this is a wake-up call for the Rays, the Orioles, the Guardians, the Rangers, and the Astros are doing it exactly how it should be done. They are not only spending money, but they are developing talent as well. So for me, I'm glad that the Guardians had a miserable season. I'm glad that the Rays and the Orioles got swept. If you're not going to spend money, you don't deserve to be other teams that not only develop, but they also spend money on top of it. I mean, could you imagine teams like the Guardians, the Rays, or the Orioles with even a $100 million payroll, or God forbid, a $150 million payroll? They would be perennial World Series contenders, but they have limited resources, I guess, even though they're owned by billionaires. It's just a joke. And one thing I do want to make clear, the Orioles are very good at developing offensive players. I mean, that lineup is going to be good for forever, but if they can just get out of their own way and actually grab a free agent or two for that rotation. Kyle Bradish is really good. I don't know if he has that bona fide ace stuff just yet, but as a 2 or 3, behind some of the guys that we're about to talk about, that could be a lot of fun. Now, let's say the Orioles owner came to me and said, Fuzzy, I want you to be my GM for the next 5 years. Here's what I would do in the following offseason. I would tell him, hey, you got to break the bank a little bit. You got to sign Sonny Gray, Jordan Montgomery, Blake Snell, and Aaron Nola. You got to do all of that. Obviously, you can't do all of that, but you can't go for Shohei Ohtani because he's not even going to be pitching until 2025. Sonny Gray is a great option. He's 34 going on 35. He might actually be 35 already. Maybe he takes less because he's older, but that's not going to happen because he almost won a Cy Young. Blake Snell, he's going to win his second Cy Young, and Aaron Nola, the dude just eats innings. So this is somewhat a deep starting pitching class. It's kind of going from infielders to starting pitchers, but then again, maybe people don't think that. But then again, maybe a lot of people aren't high on Aaron Nola or Jordan Montgomery, and if you're not high on those guys, you really only have Sonny Gray and Blake Snell. I mean, you can't go for Julio Urias. But if I was the GM, I would put my ego aside and say, hey, we should spend some money, and if the Orioles go another offseason without spending some dough on some starting pitching, you got to riot. Today's Immaculate Grid. Let's see if we can get this done in under 1 minute. We have the Yankees and the Diamondbacks, the Jeter replacement, Didi Gregorius. We have the Mets and the Diamondbacks. That one's easy. Oh, I'm going to fly through this. The Randy Johnson, had 3,000 strikeouts and played for the Diamondbacks. Gallo, my friend Joey Gallo, played for the Yankees and the Rangers. Mets, and I have absolutely no idea. Nolan Ryan, 3,000 strikeouts. He played for a bunch of teams, including the Rangers. Yankees Hall of Fame. Why is Whitey Ford coming to my head before Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth? Mets Hall of Famer Seaver. Mets are Hall of Famer on the 3,000 strikeout. Pedro. That one's easy. I could have, I think, gone with Greg Maddux. And then a Ranger and a Met. What about that one guy? Didn't he have an issue with the Mets fans, or they really liked him, Travis Gronkowski? That was quick. But aside from that, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.